What is your secret that you can't tell anyone because it will probably ruin your life? I don't give my best at work because I don't care anymore. I used to give them 100% and nobody noticed and only focused on the small mistakes I made. Now I give 40-50% and my manager keeps bugging why my performance has dropped compared to before. I simply don't care. The salary is fine compared to the country's standard, but in this field of work is on the lower end of the chart. I don't care. I'm overworked and underpaid by industry standard, not countrywide standard. I find it incredibly difficult to care about absolutely anything. Got to fake it just enough so that people will interact with me. I see depression being mentioned, which is definitely possible, but I also wanted to mention that adults who had childhood emotional neglect can look like this. A few cases from the book Running on Empty talked about it. My brother is the product of a rape. My mom told me. I don't know if she told him. She's passed away now. I found out recently that I was a product of rape. It definitely sucks to have that knowledge. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Please don't tell him. I found out I had a half-brother from Dad, and the only reason I found out about it was because he had leukemia, and they thought I'd be a match for a blood marrow transfusion. After fleeing domestic violence and trying to make a new life, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. I'm fighting it, but I'm just so tired of life. My last baby turns 18 this week, and I feel like I've done all I'm supposed to. I'm sick of being strong for everyone else when all I want to do is go. I'm just so damn tired. Edit. Wow, woke up this morning to this blowing up. I can thank everyone enough for the kind comments, messages, and overall support. I have somewhat a better outlook on things. At least for today anyway, suppose just one day at a time. I wish I could bless you all with awards and thanks, but for now, upvotes will have to do. Thanks again. You don't know how much your kind words and thoughts mean to me. My uncle beat cancer 3 times. When it came around a 4th time, he said, "Fuck it," lived his best life until he ran out of time. You are entitled to that decision. My whole life has revolved around making sure my kids were orc, and they have turned out great. All smart, either through university or attending now. I've never had a minute of trouble with them, and for that I am thankful. They haven't had it easy, either watching me struggle. You could say they are my crowning achievement, I suppose. Really, I just feel a bit like my job is done now, and struggling to find a reason to fight on. My kids love me, and will always need me, but they shouldn't have to watch me struggle when they are just starting out on their own lives. And adventures. I feel so selfish and guilty saying, I'm just done. I appreciate greatly all the well wishes and messages. I'm really just venting. I'm really saying what I can't bring myself to say to the people I need to. I will over time, I'm sure, just plodding on one day to the next, waiting on the other shoe to drop. It's kind of a relief that I've admitted it somewhere. Thank you for showing kindness. It makes my heart hurt. And that note, I retire for the night to bed. It's been a long, emotional day today, so I bid you all good night or good day wherever in the world you may be right now. Your kindness won't be forgotten. I have automated the main part of my job and get paid to essentially just show up. I left my job at an electronics manufacturing company in 2002, but they continued paying me my full salary, including all incremental raises and annual bonus, until they offered me a very generous redundancy package in 2020 due to departmental restructuring, including a pasty 5,000 lump sum contribution to my pension fund. I even got the quarterly magazine and annual Christmas card sent to me. In March of this year, 2023, I got an invite to the 75th anniversary of the company. Went along, had a great time at the free bar, and nobody realized I hadn't worked there for over 20 years. You've got to love a good administrative error. Maybe edit your post and remove the dates and info, bro. Don't want anyone finding out. I'm so happy for you, but delete this, because it's too damn precise. I am curious about what you have worked in since then, Thorpe. I have a bad back, and from time to time it goes into a full spasm. One day I was getting out of bed, and as my foot hit the floor, I went into a full spasm. I have no idea how, but a perfectly formed turd fell out the leg of my shorts and landed on the floor. Due to my spasm, I fell and landed right in the poop. The commotion woke up my Jeff for the time, and she ran over to check on me. I blamed the dog. I've never actually told anyone this before. Oh no, babe, come here. Someone shit in my pants. When my niece was little, she pooped her pants. My sister said somebody pooped in their pants to try to talk about it with other adults without shaming the child. My niece excitedly exclaimed, "Somebody pooped in my pants." When my niece was little, she pooped her pants. We don't know who did. The eyewitness testimony gives inconclusive evidence of a suspect, and the case remains open. We should use the word allegedly when speculating about open cases. In high school, I stole the MP3 player of a classmate, went into the locker room during play, and snatched it. I didn't steal it because I wanted it or to sell it. I just did it because she was an awful judgmental queen bee, and I wanted to get back at her. People saw me with it in hands, so the next day I was called into the principal's office. Steadfastly and self-assuredly denied everything. They looked at my bag, then called my parents, who searched my entire room for the stolen MP3 player. They never found it, so I was let go. Still got into a fistfight with the girl later, though, as she knew it was me. To this day, I've never admitted it to anyone. Ever. I was that petty. I still don't feel regret, even though I'm usually empathetic to a fault. She was that awful to others. I recognize it was wrong, though, definitely. In any case, the MP3 player was buried in my garden as soon as I got home, and this garden is currently a megastore parking lot. It's the silliest thing. Don't know why I've never admitted to it. My non-bio grandfather sexually abused me. He's in a care home with severe Alzheimer's now. Still processing it all to BGO. Only my partner knows. Tried to tell my mum, and she acted as if it was a normal thing to happen to a 5-year-old kid. Hey, I have that same beef. When I was 5, my neighbor tried to touch my privates. I ran home to tell my mum. She just looked at me, said you better stay away from him, went right on making dinner. Well, the truth is my entire childhood was spent running from that old perp. He lived next door my whole childhood, always ready to torment me. He and my dad were best buddies. I'm 60. Still feel like I reported something to an adult, was thrown under the bus. That I don't really have imposter syndrome. I'm actually a fraud. A fellow developer, I see. The story everyone knows is my boyfriend and I voluntarily left our place of work because our relationship went against policy, and we valued our relationship more than our crappy jobs. The truth is, we got caught fucking in my car before work and left in order to avoid repercussions. Sounds like the story you tell everyone is technically the truth. I hid the extent of my alcoholism from everyone since I was 15. I'm now 35 and 8 weeks sober. No one knows I'm sober now, as they've never known I had an alcohol issue. This is me. I'm 27 and 95 days sober. No one in my life knows the extent of the drinking I did prior to getting pregnant in March. I plan to stay sober for my son when he is born and never go back to the place of hiding my alcoholism. Congratulations on 2 months sober. That's huge and incredible! Since no one in your life can tell you this, I will. It couldn't have been easy, but you did it, and I'm immensely proud of you. I was also a high-functioning alcoholic. I started at 17. The people who lived with me knew, but my co-workers and friends of the charity where I volunteered had no idea. When I finally decided to get sober, I dropped off the face of the earth for about 3 months. No contact with anyone. Upon returning to State Charity and explaining my situation and why I had ghosted, I was told by multiple people that I wasn't an alcoholic because they never saw me drunk. It took a lot for me to look in the mirror and admit that I was out of control at 25. I sat in a recliner, sweating my ass off, clutching the armrest so hard that my shoulder blades hurt, because I knew if I got out of that chair, I was going to go to the liquor store. I couldn't fall asleep until after 2 for weeks, knowing that I couldn't go get booze even if I wanted to quell my anxiety. I know what it takes to be your own intervention team. 8 weeks is fucking huge. I've gained over 100 pounds since the start of the pandemic and fallen into the deepest depression I've ever experienced. If you were to see me in person, you wouldn't think I was depressed. I am very good at masking it. But if you were to come to my home, you'd know. I haven't had anyone in my home in almost 2 years. Right now I have bags of garbage that stink that I need to take out. I need to vacuum and mop my floor. My bed is broken on one side, so I sleep at a slant. My couch is covered in boxes, bags, and just nonsense. I haven't folded my laundry in ages. My shower door is broken. I'm really struggling, and I don't have anyone. Both my parents live in different parts of the country. I'm an only child. I don't know what I'm going to do. When I was in my deepest stage of depression, I would do this when it came to cleaning. Watch an episode, do a small task, watch an episode. Even if it was just taking one bag of garbage out, that was one thing. Make a list of small micro-tasks that you can do in like 2 minutes. I find that being able to cross something off gives me a rush of dopamine. For example, pick up just the dirty laundry in just one room and put it in the hamper pickup. 1 room worth of trash sweep. 1 room is there a way to break the other side of the bed so that your bed is even, or just put your mattress on the floor. There is also a group on Reddit called Super Morbidly Obese, where people who struggle with their weight encourage each other, post inspiration, or just go to rant. I know the subreddit name might sound off-putting, but it's good to know that you're not alone. I'm a member. Hope these help. I honestly didn't think anyone would see my comment. Thank you for replying. I do microtasks, but compared to everything around it, it doesn't feel like I've made a difference. I really do try every day. Today I took out my trash and loaded the washing machine. I'm going to load the dishwasher and try and clear my kitchen counters, because right now I don't have any space for anything, and I'm hoping that clearing the counters will be motivation enough to tackle my living room this week. And I will join Super Morbidly Obese. I'm almost 400-als, and it's definitely not where I want to be in my life. I went to a musical a few weeks ago with a friend of mine, small, petite woman, and we got to our seats and I couldn't fit. I was so embarrassed. I went to another friend's graduation at a private school a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't fit in any of the seats in the auditorium. Thank you for being a kind human being. I once jacked off to a picture of George W. Bush's bulge when I was like 12. Might be the darkest secret I've read so far. First time I beat off was to a Dr. Seuss's book. All the places you'll go to the page with the waiting place. Far left side of the left page, there's a woman holding skis, and you can see the outline of her boobs. I know exactly where it is because I'm almost 40 now, and it's my 3-year-old son's favorite book. Jesus, that's dark. Somehow, this is the worst one I've read so far. All my passwords are the same word with different combinations of numbers and punctuation marks. A friend of mine's old roommate used the same answer for every security question, which was "Il like spaghetti." He said even though he knew what it was, the handful of times he wanted to get on his roommate's computer or into his uni email, he'd get most of the way through, then realize he didn't realize how to spell spaghetti in the moment without looking at it. I think I'm not as nice as people believe I am. I am just acting according to social norms when, in reality, everything outside my home makes me feel tired and drained. That actually means you're nice. It probably means you're nicer than the average nice person, really. That makes you nice. Mean people don't care about upsetting people or social norms. I'm 40 and my parents have no idea that I never actually graduated college. I went for almost 6 years and never felt like I really knew what I was doing. School wasn't necessarily hard for me, but I just couldn't bring myself to focus or be dedicated to it. My parents were super obsessed with the idea that everyone needs a degree to get any decent job, so there was a ton of pressure and dropping out wasn't an option. So, I graduated in a winter semester and decided not to walk the stage since the December ceremony was always pretty small, and I knew they wouldn't think that was weird. This happened to be during the recession in the 2000s, so I had an excuse for not finding a conventionally professional job right after that. Now I actually have a really good job with a company that focuses on hiring people based on experience, skill, and personality, so it turns out I didn't even need that degree. But I will never tell my parents the truth. Edit. Dang! I did not expect this to get so many responses from others in a similar situation. Thanks for sharing your stories. I'm glad to hear that others were able to find their own way, despite familial pressure. To those saying now it's on the internet and no longer a secret, this is an old throwaway account, and I specifically switched over to post this comment. Also, I am aware that people have murdered over this type of lie. Yikes. But I very much love my parents, and I'm also not a raging psychopath, so worries on that front. Oh my god, dude, I'm in the same boat. I was going to type the same thing, and I just wanted to see anyone else has the same secret. I just feel a little relieved that there's someone else like me. I'm in a good position, and I think this secret will just disappoint everyone at this point, so I'm not ever bringing it up. About 11 years ago, I contacted my estranged father. We had become estranged due to the fact he abused my older sister when we were children. We sent some emails back and forth, and I lied that I was doing a college degree and needed help with tuition and He must have sent me about 50 in 3 years. He found out it was a lie as he emailed the uni I said I went to asking for a receipt for tax purposes, and I blocked him and never spoke to him again. That 50 was spread between me, my siblings and my mum when we were in financial difficulties, and I played it off as winning big in an online casino. I don't feel an ounce of guilt, but I'm not sure if my family would understand what I did. The man didn't pay any child support when he and my mother divorced about 12 years before this. So I feel justified in scamming him. My wife knows and she's agreed to keep my secret. Edit. Just for some further information, my parents divorced when I was 8, found out he had been molesting my sister when I was 17. Between the ages of 17 and 20, I didn't talk to him, started scamming him at 20 all the way to age 24. I actually did go to uni, the year after he found out, and now work as a lab tech. That 50 brought us out of poverty and gave my mom the breathing space necessary to find a better job and move us to a nicer area of the town that I used to live in. My sister has tried to unalive herself countless times, trying to deal with the trauma he inflicted on her. His brothers all know what he did and yet took his side. He fled to Naz in 2007, around 2 years before we found out what he did. I sometimes go on his new wife's Facebook to see how they're doing, and it doesn't seem like he's missing the Siftik. I did what I had to do to help my family. That Siftik also paid for private therapy for my sister, who was being let down by the niche. It saved her life. I have no regrets. Sincerely, no sarcasm. Good for you. I don't think it would ruin my life currently, but here we go. When I was a kid in elementary, I was molested by one of the tutors at my school and said nothing happened when confronted about it by school officials. I had a lot of problems with learning when I was growing up, so I often needed extra help. The elementary school had people come in as tutors for kids, and we'd all get like an hour once a week to catch up on things we didn't understand in class. My tutor there was this young guy, and at first I thought he was one of the coolest people I could ever meet. He would tell stories about going on cool hiking trips, scuba diving, and even running in a marathon. He'd bring snacks all the time, and once even brought me a diary of a wimpy kid book, and I couldn't help but look up to him. Things got weird after a few weeks, and it started with him becoming super touchy, but I didn't mind. I looked at him like a cool older brother. It eventually got to the point where I knew it wasn't normal, and I began to feel awful when I was around him. He would tell me to give him massages because his body hurt and my touch would help him. To make everything short and nondescript, I touched places a child definitely should not touch. One day I got called to the front office, and they asked me strange questions regarding his teaching style. I think they noticed I wasn't actually improving in any of my classes. The next day I was called in again, but he was there too. Essentially, they were confronting me about not getting better at reading or basic mathematics. His demeanor changed in this setting. He told them I wasn't trying hard enough and that I might have a disorder like attitude. I didn't look at him the entire time, and I felt like crying because I was disappointing the adults in my life. They even talked about telling my mom. After he left, I think the counselor noticed how weird I was and asked me if Mr. Insert last name treated me badly or did things adults shouldn't do. I lied immediately, without thought in my head. If I told them then I'd get in trouble too, or they would have thought I was gay. She took my word and I left the next week. When I saw him again, he was an entirely different person. He was much quieter and passive-aggressive. In fact, he pretended he barely knew me when he had been tutoring me for almost the entire year. After that year, he switched schools, and I never saw him again. No one knows what happened, and I was convinced my family members would call me gay if I told them or even punish me for letting something like that happen. I didn't have the greatest childhood. We were struggling, and I had no father, so I didn't have the luxury of a decent male figure in my life. I'm currently in therapy, and I'm contemplating telling my therapist because I'm having some issues with my sexuality, and I'm not coping in the safest ways, but I still feel bad because I really did think he was the coolest man I've ever met in my childhood despite what happened. 5 years before my stepdad died of Alzheimer's and leukemia, I noticed he was very quiet in the evenings when I visited him and my mum. I asked him, "Why don't you want to talk a bit more?" To which he responded, "If I don't say anything, I can't say anything wrong." I took it to mean that he was afraid of conflicts with my mom and said that I would want to hear anything he had to say. After he died, I realized why he said what he said. I was at a lunch with him when he tried to ask me something but put in completely wrong nouns, nonsense choices, and every time he did that, my mom started laughing and said, "Ha ha, now you've totally gotten things weird." She didn't know she was being condescending because she didn't know he was getting advanced dementia. None of us knew then, and she just brushed his mistakes off as being silly mistakes. She couldn't know it shamed him so much that he stopped talking, since he didn't trust his words anymore, nor his sense of balance. I will never, ever explain this to my mom, not even if I am super angry. I would do unretractable damage to my relationship with her. She mourned him deeply. Edit. To the heartless people insulting my mother over this post, she stood with my stepdad to the very end, sat with him in his room in the nursing home, when he sometimes would scream for a half-hour in mortal dread as he realized the consequences of his worsening condition. Those days would completely crush her. She suffered more than anyone I know have done, and also saw her own dad die of cancer in her youth, so you know nothing of her sacrifice. We buried him 2 weeks ago. I'm doing all I can to spend time with my mom at the cabin and cook great meals for her, do chores in the garden. My brother and his wife helps too. My grandma has Alzheimer's. It sounds really terrible to say, but I'm so happy my grandpa died before she got the disease. He was a mean bastard, and he never would have brought her to the doctor. She'd be falling down the stairs right now, trying to do his laundry and make his food, all while being undiagnosed if he was still alive. He'd be yelling at her and calling her stupid. Alzheimer's is fucking terrible. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. I know how devastating it can be. It doesn't hurt me much, but the things she says to my mum fucking tear me up. She was always such a sweet and quiet lady, and I'm flat out baffled by some of the things she says now. My grandpa was a prick. He changed very briefly after his wife died and seemed like he was turning a new leaf. Got remarried and was back to the same old shit. He kept saying his new wife was acting like a child and was stupid, and he'd say it to her face too. She died after about a year of marriage and had become increasingly more inept and bizarre. Well, turns out they had gotten into a car accident several months prior to her death. Her Australian shepherd died in the accident, so it must have been a doozy. Paramedics supposedly came and suggested my grandpa take his wife to the hospital to get checked out. He never did. She had a fucking brain bleed. That's why she was acting like that, because she was injured. Good riddance to my grandpa. There was no funeral and no one mourned. Holy shit, that's awful. That poor woman. I feel so bad for her. One has to compartmentalize. I buried my stepdad 2 weeks ago. In the 60s, he was a machinist on a minesweeper, 6'2", barrel-chested hockey player. The last week, I could have lifted him with one arm. You have my sympathy. If you want to talk more, my palms are very open, glass half full and all that. One of my closest family members offered me sex during one of the most mentally unstable times of his life. I wasn't interested. Nothing else happened, and the topic never came up again. One of the main reasons why I haven't brought it up in family is because his marriage is already unstable, and I don't intend to make it worse. Something similar happened to me. A family member slipped a note under my door, propositioning sex. I didn't respond. He offered one other time face-to-face, and I said, no, thank you. I have a boyfriend. If I didn't have one, I still wouldn't have, but he had anger issues, and I was so terrified of what he would do if he felt rejected by me. I kept my bedroom door locked every day until I moved out, and I refuse to ever be alone with him. I've never told anyone until now. I have no idea what I'm doing at work. This is what I think is wild. I went from working in a medium-sized group, wearing multiple hats and getting shit done, to working in a giant corporation where if I draft an email reply, then send it at the end of the day, everybody claps for me. And I make way more than I ever would at the job where I was actually doing things. It's just crazy to me. I'm used to it now, but it drove me nuts, because things I could do in a few hours would take other people weeks to complete. And that's the norm. Edit. Have a lot of questions about what I do. I'm a business or program analyst in it for my company. No job is perfect. I had to learn a ton of things I never knew before, and of the dozen people hired with me. There's only 2 of us left, not even 2 years later. I do stuff with databases, Power BI, project management tools, use case testing, and pretty proficient with Mrs. Excel project. I came from a smaller company where I had to wear multiple hats before, so I'm just extremely proficient at what I do since I can prioritize better in my current position. There is free time in my day-to-day, but it's not quite as simple all the time. I'm just used to doing all my tasks same day, but larger companies stretch out one-day tasks into one-week tasks. I've had a job like this, and it rattled the hell out of me. My manager quit about a year after I started, and he had a serious come to Jesus talk with me that I was putting in way too much effort and being too proactive. It was leading people to take advantage of me and leaving me frustrated. Basically, if I wanted to survive in that environment, I'd need to stoop to their level. It taught me everything I know about what I like to call corporate tennis. Someone asks you to do something, volley back with a list of questions. 50% of the time, they never respond. If they do, 1-2 weeks later, return with some clarifying comments, input requests, etc. You can stall work for literally months by doing this over and over, and it's not from being a smart-ass or lazy. It's just from forcing people to think about what they are asking, if it has any value, how high priority it is, the logistics of it, etc. Most people give up when they're forced to do a big think and not prattle off every inane thought that crosses their mind and try dump it on you. Ultimately, I decided I wanted a job that was engaging and challenging, but damn, that time taught me a lot. I still use the same tactics on thoughtless clients, and it's still just as effective. You better not be a structural engineer. He's actually a pilot. I hate it when my pilot types gibberish into his document when he's supposed to be driving my plane. The amount of time I spend clicking my mouse on my empty desktop and writing gibberish into a Word doc that I delete at the end of the day is shocking. I take typing tests when I'm in the office to make it seem like I'm doing something productive. Then I'll do the occasional squint at the screen for a lile razzle dazzle, alter tab from Reddit when someone walks by, book solo meeting rooms to watch YouTube or nap. There are no limits. You should write a book. Instead, Chapter 1, The Beginning. You misspelled expend pulduk. Welcome to the club. I contemplate suicide daily, but my wife and daughter keep me going strong. Edit. Thank you all. I have a good helpline in person for me to talk with, and an even larger helpline online here with you all. Thank you. Each day is a struggle, but keep going for those that I love. I fall asleep every night in horror because my former best friend and I haven't talked in 3 years because for her 21st birthday, we both got massively blackout drunk and smoked. I have no idea what happened that night, but she's never answered a message I've sent since. Out of all the things I read so far, which is a lot, this is the only one that got any kind of reaction out of me other than the man with dementia, afraid to speak. Yep, same, because this sounds like the intro of a good horror movie. This kind of thing is what made me stop binge drinking years ago. You wake up the next morning or afternoon, and the first thing someone says to you is, "Sue, exactly how much do you remember about last night?" And you know right away that whatever they say next is never a good thing. To paraphrase a comedian I heard recently, it's never going to be great news. You made $5,000 when you were blackout drunk last night. Edit, first people. Every other reply to this is not true. What about gambling? Yes, I realize gambling is an exception where someone might wake up with extra money. While I am genuinely happy to meet you, I have no intention of remembering your name until we interact at least 3 or 4 more times. It's not even about intention. My brain just doesn't work that way. When people whom I've only met once remember my name, I'm genuinely flawed. It was the beginning of the end of my binge drinking when I woke up from a blackout night with a post. It noted scribbled, "Don't call Jason. You broke up with him. We'd been together 5 years and I never called." I just love how all of the stories here are either on September 3rd at 2:37 and I went to a truck stop and murdered someone in the bathroom, or my homemade cookies aren't homemade. My Girl Scout cookies are made with real Girl Scouts. I was once at a party for my nephew's birthday and really had to go. I noticed they had a basement bathroom, so while cake was being served, I dropped a deuce that could peel paint. I was able to sneak in out without anyone noticing. Fast forward to after the party, and my Sile and Bill were complaining about 2 other family members clogging the upstairs bathroom and stinking up the basement. They complained that the smell lasted for days after that, and it had to be professionally cleaned. To this day, they blame the other couple to the point that they get angry discussing the topic. I am a mystery pooper. You're a party pooper. I stopped working at work 1 year back. I have no idea what the fuck they want from me because I watch 12 hours of shows on my laptop and work for 30 minutes a day by attending a team huddle and staying on mute. 3-4 years ago, I was responsible for providing a few reports to different teams. Each month I generate the reports, format it in a presentable way for the team managers I was sending them to, and send them over. Nobody ever said anything about them, never a question about the data or even a reply to my email. So 1 month I just decided I wasn't going to send them, and then it turned into 2 months and 3 months. Nobody ever said a word about it, so I just stopped doing it. Got promoted the following year. Honestly, best advice when you start a job like that is to stop sending reports and updates, then see who notices. So many reports are created because one manager didn't know one piece of info once and got embarrassed. Stop sending, work out what's important and who needs to be kept happy, then focus your energy on useful tasks. My first year as a teacher, we had these timesheets we had to fill out each week that tracked how much time we had spent on various activities. They were a pain in the ass, but I didn't really think anything of them. We're at the end of the year, and they ask us to do a bigger version of them that summarized the whole year. I went to the principal and asked for all my old sheets back so I could fill it out properly. She told me she had no idea where they were. I went back to my room and spent 30 seconds filling in random numbers that were vaguely correct and never heard anything about it again. What job cannot be done for a year without people noticing? I have a job like that. Midnights at a call center. I just sleep or watch movies. Haven't worked in 6 years. It's actually an interesting phenomenon. Basically, managers at big companies sometimes fail to realize that someone's become redundant. Hatips. WVox platform company 23,733,240, 3,244 bullshit. Jobs work, employment, lazy, jobless, often. I got laid off in February. But this was basically me from 2017, 2023. That article is so accurate. Plus, it's not like he can waltz up to his boss to announce there's no real business reason for his existence. How do I initiate that conversation? That's, hey, I haven't been doing much of anything this whole time. I need more to do. This exact thought crossed my mind more times than I can count when I was in that role. I work for the government. My job is quality assurance. I'm the creed of the office. The problem is, by the time it's gotten to me, the case has been peer-reviewed twice and a supervisor has approved it. And this is government. People are very thorough with applying the law. I've had my job for 12 years now, top seniority, and while I will occasionally pull a few cases at random, I pretty much just auto-approve everything and work 15 minutes a day. Last item that slipped through the cracks was due to a system error 4 years ago. Otherwise, I have a 100 accuracy rating. Thanks, 4 people before me. I have 2 bosses, the director of the entire agency who I've met once and has never questioned my work, and the governor of the state who has never questioned my work, and the governor of the state who is a little too busy to care. I spend my days working from home, wiggling my mouse so my computer doesn't go into sleep mode, smoking an ungodly amount of weed and chilling with my Great Dane on the deck. Yes, I live a blessed life, lol. I play most video games on easy mode, then brag about how I'm so good to my wife who doesn't know about games. My husband plays sandbox-styling games that are absolutely not designed to do that. The amount of time he spent not going on missions but instead petting horses and admiring art is hilarious. I won the lotto. Haven't told anyone or changed my lifestyle. I'm still going to finish my degree in data science, so I can say my money is from a new job. Edit. Thank you for the kind words. To answer some questions. Winnings just surpassed the 8-figure mark. $10 on Quick Picks. Why would a D's play the lotto? Well, I'm not one yet, but just for shits and giggles every once in a while. Yes, I know the odds, but that 0.24% chance could be you, haha. That data science job must pay super good for our son. He just got his first check and purchased a $30 million home in cash. It's crazy how his new job gave him 200 days of vacation time and enough money to party in Europe for a full year as a sign. on bonus. Fuck you, and congrats. It's me, your long-lost brother. Honestly, smart move. Everyone you've ever met would expect you to help them. Help who you choose to help, and never tell anyone you don't trust to take your secret to the grave. Happy for you. While addicted to meth, I accidentally got caught up working for a Nazi gang in my hometown. They were just having me smurf and collect money for them, but by the time I realized what they were all about, they weren't about to let me just stop working. So I kept doing it until I was able to leave my hometown and make it out to Tampa.
The things I got involved in while working with them could put me in prison for 20 years.
Most of my family think I lived a pretty normal junkie life back then, but they have no idea how easy it is to get involved with big-name dealers in a town with such a high cartel presence. I hate to say this, but I don't see myself as a doctor in the future. But I can't say anything about it because my mom already supported me financially. It's too late to back out. I've seen lots of people with me's go on to medicine-adjacent work. Find what interests you, and then figure out how to incorporate your education into the new thing if possible. For example, Annette works in a research institute doing medical ethics work. Some people go more into business side of things. I think there are more options than bedside doctoring, is what I'm saying. I caught a guy robbing a girl yelling for help in a tent at a very loud bush party in my university days. I was drunk myself, and I ended up blacking out with rage and beating him up with his pants around his ankles so bad that he was put in a coma for a couple of days. I never saw any consequences other than probably a broken knuckle. Nobody witnessed anything, and I got off scot-free. The girl in the tent definitely wasn't going to say anything. From his Facebook, it looks like he is a happy and healthy father of 2 now. He doesn't know who I am, but I think I came very close to killing someone with a rock caveman style that night. Edit. Thanks everyone for the responses. But violence is not the answer. Calling people out on their day-to-day actions before they are able to act something like that should always be the primary action to prevent stuff like that from happening. Almost killing someone isn't something 20-year-old me thought he was going to do that night. This reminds me of someone I know. He raped a girl in our friend group. The other dudes found out, told him they wanted to party, took him out into a cornfield and beat the absolute shit out of him and left him to walk him. She didn't want to go to the police, but he wasn't allowed in that town anymore, and still isn't. Thank you for being you, man. Good man, good man.